In this lesson we're going to be looking at how to play power chords. Now these are the most common chords in metal. The first thing you want to do, make sure you've watched my hand position video. This is really important because it's going to teach you how to set your hand up into a good position so that you can play these chords as comfortably as possible. Now in this lesson we're only looking at how to play power chords from the E string. Okay, we'll look at how to move across the strings in the future, in stage 2. But it's a good idea to get used to playing them just from the E string, because as you go down the strings there's other techniques that you've got to worry about. So it's a good idea to get used to the many things that you've got to do in this power chords from the E string, and then once you're used to that, then playing them from the A string or from the D string seems pretty easy because you've only got to add a few more techniques. The first thing we're going to do, we're going to learn an E5 power chords. This is a non-movable shape. We're going to learn it first of all because this is going to set our hand up for the muting part. Okay, so what we need to do, first of all, we're going to take our first finger, we're going to put it on the 2nd fret of the A string. Okay, and we're going to play the open E string as well. So if we play those two notes, the open E string and the 2nd fret on the A together. Now pick them both out, make sure they're both ringing. Okay, and what we're going to do, we're going to lay our finger flat against the rest of the strings, just very lightly. It's only going to touch the strings, to stop them from vibrating so that the sound can't come out. Okay, the reason why we're doing this is so that you don't have to be precise on your picking hand, so that you don't have to be very just hitting these two strings. You don't have to worry about that in the beginning. You want to set your hand up so it's muting the other strings so that you can just, play aggressively, hit all the strings, and it doesn't matter, you're only getting the ones you want. Now at first we're only learning 2-note power chords, okay? In the future we'll learn 3-note ones, but for now we're just going to play the 2-note ones. Okay, so you've got the open E and the 2nd fret on the A. And then what we're going to do, we're going to lay the first finger very lightly against those other strings. Okay, so basically if I get a close-up on this, notice that my first finger is very lightly sitting across these strings, okay? It's not putting any pressure down like that, it's just lightly sitting against the strings that I don't want. Okay, this way, it mutes them all out. So basically if I play all the 6 strings, we'll get... That's what we're looking for. Just so these low 2 strings ring. Okay, take your time with this. It takes a bit of practice to get your finger comfortable sitting there like that. Okay, so if you hear any other strings ringing, it just means that your finger's arched a little bit. So you might get something like, and that tells you that your first finger's not flat enough. So flatten it a bit more, make sure it's touching all the strings. It's only putting pressure on the tip of the finger so that you get that 2nd fret of the A string ringing. Okay, the other thing to watch out for, make sure you don't put pressure on the this part of your finger near the high string, because what sometimes happens with people when they're playing these, they get that, okay, because they're putting pressure down here, but also here. So make sure, again, it's just lightly across here, but pressure on the tip, so we get... Okay, so that's your E5, take your time with it, make sure you're getting it right so you've only got those 2 strings ringing and everything else is deadened, it's all muted. Next thing we're going to do, we're going to move on to playing an A5. Okay, what we're going to do, we're going to play a power chord from the 5th fret, okay? Now these are movable chords, these next ones we're going to show you, so once you get used to them we can move them across the frets and down a few strings. So first of all, what we're going to do, we're going to put our first finger on the 5th fret of the E string. Okay? Then you're going to put your 3rd finger or your little finger on the 7th fret of the A string. Okay, you could use either finger, it doesn't matter, it's kind of up to you in the beginning. When you first start out, the 3rd finger is a lot stronger, so some people find that easier. But as you move down the frets, they get wider, so it's harder to stretch out with your 3rd finger. But if you use your little finger, it's a bit weaker, but it's easier to stretch out as you go down the neck. Okay, so try both of these out and see which one you prefer. In the future we'll use both of them, we'll learn to use both of them, but for now just stick to one, get used to it, and then later on we learn to use the other one. Okay, so let's pick both these out. Make sure they're both ringing. If this is your first time doing chords, it's getting used to putting pressure on both strings. So make sure both of them are ringing. You're not getting anything like that, or maybe the lowest one's not ringing. So make sure you've got both of them ringing. Okay, and then the same thing applies with the muting part. So same thing as we did with our E5, we want to keep our finger flat against the rest of the strings. And that's going to mute them for us. Again, that way we can just play aggressively, we can whack the strings and it doesn't matter, we're only getting the notes that we want. Okay, in the future we'll learn to be more precise, but for now we don't want to have to worry about that. We want to just be able to hit these strings. And again, make sure with the first finger it is muting those strings, but you're not getting that. We're not putting any pressure on the high end of the guitar, where we're basically putting pressure on this part of your finger, down here, and then you get something like that. We're just looking for the low two strings to ring out. So practice that, get used to that shape. Make sure you don't get that. Okay, and then practice both of those separately. So you get the E5, get that comfortable, and practice your A5 now. 5th fret power chords. Now, let's move these power chords down if you've got used to it. What we want to do, we want to move this this shape over to the full fret. Now, it's just a shape. So basically here we're playing 5 and 7. When we go down to the full fret, we're going to play 4 and 6. Okay, so hopefully you notice that it's just a shape basically. It's like wherever your first finger is on the low string, or the lowest string that you're playing the chord on, you're going to go down a string and then 2 frets over. So in this case it's 4, down a string, 2 frets over, that'll make it 6. So we've got 5 and 7 for the 5th fret, 4 and 6 for the full fret. Okay, so let's practice moving between the 5th fret to the full fret. Now what you want to do, you want to play the chords, pick them both out, make sure they're ringing, and then when we move over to 4, what you want to do, you want to try and keep the shape, you want to release the pressure from the strings. Don't actually take your fingers off the strings, just release the pressure, slide over. If you've done it right, most of the time you get that kind of sound, don't worry, you can't actually get rid of that. Okay, so you're going to move over to the full fret, and then pick them both out, strum it, make sure they're ringing. Same thing, release the pressure, maintain contact with the string, and move over to the 5th fret. Now obviously, if you're new to this, play it very, very slowly. The slower you go, the quicker you will learn it, okay? You've just got to get the fingers used to this shape. So just sit there going like 5, very slowly, over to 4, get used to it. And back again. And again. And then the main point, just the slower you go, the quicker you will learn it. Okay, so practice that. And then the one thing you are going to notice when you're playing these chords, if you've done it for a little bit, even just a couple minutes when you first start out, you're going to notice that your wrist is hurting, okay? Because, you've just had it bent like that for a while. Okay, and I can't really think of many other things in life where you're sitting there putting tension, pressure, and just like that. So it's going to hurt your wrist, so just shake it out, release all that pressure that you've built up in there. And, take regular breaks when you practice this. Don't go too heavy on it when you first start, because otherwise, you could damage your wrist. Just build it up slowly. The other thing, how we name these chords, it all depends on what is the lowest string, or sorry, what is the first finger, where that first finger is. Whatever the note is there, so in this case on the 5th fret, that's an A. So that makes this an A power chord. Okay, you might see it as in tab in the future, it might say A5, that's because power chords are 5th chords. Okay, so because this note is A, that makes it an A power chord. If I move over here, this on the 3rd fret, that's a G note. If I play a power chord, it's now a G power chord or a G5. Okay, if I say went over to the 7th fret, this is a B note. If I played a power chord with it, this is a B5 power chord. Okay, so hopefully you've got your chords down. Practice them very, very slowly. Get used to them. You know, get your hand used to what it's got to do. Once you're there, go in. You know, in stage one, there's going to be plenty of songs that have power chords in them. So go and learn one of those and have fun with it.